All right, good morning once again. If you're just joining us, it's Crossfire with Dapo and Ishoma. And like we promised you, that this conversation today is going to be very interesting. Some of us have lost our loved ones. You know, a couple of times when incidences happened and we rushed them to the hospital, and you meet with very, you know, interesting scenarios where nurses and doctors just, you know, throw their faces away, and most times you wonder if really and truly their training is to save lives. And so due to negligence, a lot of people have died, you know, circumstances and situations, you know, that are excusable, and, you know, medical conditions that are treatable. But because of negligence, or due to negligence, we have lost so many people to that. My father is one of them. I don't know how close a victim of medical negligence in Nigeria is to you. But for me, this is a very, very interesting conversation. And we have an interesting guest this morning who will be helping to, you know, throw more light on some of these issues in Nigeria. Is no other person but Laolu Osoyin. LLM, MCLM, Panadol, you know, amlodipine, and all of that. I just see a lot. So just to let you know that, I mean, this is someone who practices medical law, and so is he is the president of the Resource Center for Medical Law Research and Development. He's the director of Medical Legal. Now that's Medical Tutors Limited, accredited CPD provider by MDCN, is a member of World Association of Medical Law, Global Panel of Health Law Experts of American College of Legal Medicine, and then MBA Committee on Medical and Health Law, organizer, Medical Law Seminar Series, and head of Chambers, First Counsel Solicitors. Who else could we have brought on the show? Who else could help really talk about this? And so we definitely will be running the show with Laolu, and he will be assisting us. Laolu, good to have you on Crossfire this morning.
Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me here.
You look like someone who has really read, you know, who is well read. And you have a learned colleague. I am an educated person.
You're educated.
Yes.
You're educated too? I thought I'm the only... you are learned.
You're educated. We are both learned.
Okay, all right. I mean, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me here.
And thanks for making it on time too.
Thank you.
And all of that. Let's talk this morning about medical negligence in Nigeria. But before we narrow down to talking about medical negligence, a couple of decisions that government, you know, seems to be taking. Yeah. For instance, I mean, it made headlines today to let you know that the National Executive Council dedicated 1% of consolidated revenue accounts to health sector. Now, talking about the health sector in Nigeria, let's build up to, you know, talking about medical negligence. What is your take on the health sector? Do you think the health sector in Nigeria, a few weeks back, we have had doctors, you know, down tooling and saying, we don't care how many people this affects, you know, our life is very, very important. I know doctors have to pay bills. I know they have families to run. I know, you know, that I mean, one of my very closest friend, who was my best man when I got married, is a medical doctor, but he practices in New Zealand as we speak. And I know a lot of doctor friends who have relocated to in Saudi Arabia and in so many other countries of the world. And many are still planning to go. Yeah. And I know the ratio of doctors to persons in Nigeria. It's really appalling. Let me build, you know, being a victim of medical negligence, I'll quickly give you a build-up. First was my father, blessed memory. I mean, it was in a hospital and it was misdiagnosed. And on the long run, you know, we started treating, you know, we left the disease and we were treating the symptoms until things really got worse. Yeah. And then when we now had money, we had to now patronize a private hospital when somebody introduced, you know, a consultant to us. And that was the person who eventually said, oh, your pop actually has a kidney-related issue and all of that. And then we started, you know, dealing with that, but apparently it was just too late. Now, my son was actually born with a hole in his navel, and we were never able to discover that he had that. All we were using was anointing oil every time that thing happens, because I think a part of his organ get traps in the hole once in a while, and then it can be very excruciating. But we put anointing oil and we pray, because we just didn't know what was happening until when he was 7 going 8. And a doctor took pain to just check, and we discovered a hole in his navel. And it's really, and I'm like, what happened? How did this get there? And the doctor told us that from what I am seeing, this happened, since birth. Yeah. And we just never knew. Now, Laulu, let's really help Nigerians. Maybe this is a call, maybe this is a reawakening, and all of that. But let us talk about the health sector. What's your take on the health sector in Nigeria? Considering that President Buhari fell ill not too long ago.
And went abroad
for treatment.
Okay, first thanks for having me here once again.
You're welcome.
First of all, I need to say this. Nigerian health workers, with due respect to what people might think, they're actually supermen or women, considering what they go through to provide their services. Nigeria, as I speak to you now, we have only 42,000 doctors in Nigeria.
Practicing doctors?
Practicing doctors, licensed to practice. 42,000 doctors, servicing 100 and...
Almost 200 million people.
So you can just imagine, really speaking, how daunting that is. So we have a problem. We also have a problem of funding, clearly. Okay. And I'm happy that the federal government has approved to comply with the law, because it's actually the National Health Act that says that you must spend 1% on consolidated revenue on health. So we are in the right direction, but we have a long way to go.
Okay.
Now, instances are bound. Medical errors occur. Why wouldn't it occur? Because how many practitioners do we have practicing in the country? Now, because we have a lot of doctors who who study here, and the next thing is they are looking for a way to. So we have a brain drain situation as well. So doctors are all over the world, and they are doing well. I see them everywhere I go, and they're Nigerians. Went to UCH, went to Luth, things like that. But where are they? They're all abroad. Then again, funding. We do not have a properly well-funded health sector. So all these put together, we have a theater of errors. So it's a disaster waiting to happen. So why wouldn't there be misdiagnosis? Why wouldn't they mix up samples? Because we haven't trained them, we haven't funded them. They are overworked.
The equipment to work with are not even available. But we also know that disbursements were made for the purchase of those equipment. So,
yeah.
But we seem to blame the government more often than not on those issues.
Let me explain to you. You've had GSM now for mobile phones for a couple of years. How many phones have you used since you've had a SIM card?
On the average, maybe like 10.
So the same way in which innovations come with phones, the same way in which innovations come with medical equipment. So you have a 1985, 1973 X-ray machine or radiography machine, so which is outdated, it's moribund, it's unserviceable, it is no longer used. I have some colleagues in other countries who tell me they trash them, and I wish I could bring some of these things down here, because innovations have come. So the Nokia, I shouldn't use any brand. Old handsets we used to use before, compared to the smartphones we're using now. No. Think about it the same way in which equipment. I mean, your studio now, I'm looking at fantastic cameras. And so imagine, so if somebody's still using those old cameras, yes, so will you get the same resolution like you would? So exactly the same thing here. So it's because we're not funding, it's because we are not also developing capacity in the Nigerian health sector. So we are moribund as it is, and that's why it's easy for you to travel to Ghana.
But Laulu, let's look at it really without having to put you on a hot seat.
Yeah, I'm comfortable in the hot seat.
How do you blame government for the number of doctors we have in Nigeria? The number of doctors that schools in Nigeria actually churn out compared to, I mean, let's consider the number of people who actually want to read medicine in the first instance. And then maybe via the school system, how many people eventually graduate and become qualified to practice medicine, you know, in Nigeria and all of that. And I think to a very large extent, don't you think we have to begin to look at some other sectors that is contributing to the problem that we are having in the health sector?
The problem we're having in the health sector is just funding. We turn out, basically funding. We turn out graduates and they leave. You know, even consultants leave.
Information in the public domain have it that 62% of doctors practicing in the United States are Nigerians.
Yeah, even in the UK. Due for the UK as well.
Wow.
So, I mean, you said you have friends in New Zealand. Oh, yes. I've met friends in Australia. I've met friends in Indonesia.
I mean, our own doctor, Nigerian
trained doctor.
Oh, yes.
He's also in the UK. And he's a fantastic doctor who was, up until some months ago, here with us.
Yeah, but he was in Nigeria here. We're having strikes every day. We're having resident doctor strikes. We're having these issues.
Okay.
You know, so
now let's, because, I mean, we need to just educate Nigerians. Now, the point here is this. If really and truly we have a shortfall in terms of, you know, in terms of the number of doctors to patients.
Yes.
Now, if that is the true scenario, how come we have a lot of doctors who just doesn't want to report or work for government? Everybody wants to have a private practice.
I know where you're going to.
Everybody
I know where you're going to. Yeah, I think it's only expected that at a point in time you want to have your own studio as well. You want to have, you know, have emancipation.
Unfortunately, that's not the way I see it. I see doctors want to exploit.
No.
You know, they understand the problem that is already on ground, that we really don't have as much doctors as the country needs to be able to service our health sector. But unfortunately, you still have a lot of doctors who wants to go into private practice because private practice bring more money.
Doctors have a right to go to private practice as long as they're not public officials. So that's the difference.
So that means doctors have actually been defrauding the nation. They've been defrauding government. They are government workers and they still have private practice.
Now, I think it's more of ignorance, and I'll explain.
On the side of government.
On the part of the doctors.
Okay.
And I'll explain. There used to be a prohibition law prohibiting people working for government in having private practices. It was a decree in 1984.
Yeah.
Then the people in the health sector, the doctors, Nigerian Medical Association, approached the military in 1992 to give them a waiver to allow them to have private practices because they felt that there was also a shortfall of people patronizing private hospitals. So they allowed that. By 1999, we had a constitution. And we...
Decree 24.
Yes, and we abolished all other decrees, including decrees that prescribe ASU and things like that. So as it is now, with the law, the Constitution is the ground norm.
Yeah.
The Constitution says that as long as you're a public official, you should not engage in private practice of any kind aside from farming.
Yes.
So doctors who work for government
in public hospitals are not supposed to. Now, there's a conflict of laws here relating to the Code of Medical Ethics, which is the code they swore to, which ought to have taken cognizance of that fact, which didn't, which in that law said that doctors in public hospitals can engage in private practice when they are off duty. So it gave a conditional...
Oh, okay.
Yes. However, let's be frank with ourselves here. The doctors who work in corporate hospitals, who have private practices, are they only seeing their patients when they are off duty? Or are they leaving their duty posts in federal government hospitals to see patients in private hospitals? And I make bold to say, we can have an audit. Go and check records of operations done in the last 1 year by doctors who work in government hospitals.
check the time they had those surgeries, and compare with their timetable in the government hospitals.
As long as those laws.
So you find out that they left their duty posts to attempt. So that's why we have waiting hours in hospitals. That's why we just see young doctors seeing patients, and they can't make full decisions because the consultant is in a private hospital. And that now, there are laws relating to this. There's what we call fee splitting. As long as a doctor makes a decision on a patient, not 100% on the interest of the patient, but because of financial or pecuniary interest, it's malpractice. Now, there's also what we call itinerant surgery. Now, what happens is this, I will be very frank with you. Some doctors see patients who are in government hospitals, and they poach them there, and they take them to private hospitals. Now, it's itinerant surgery because they ought not to be in private hospitals. But now, these doctors are full-time workers in government hospitals. So you find out that the patient has been taken to a private facility for treatment. However, they are not able to adequately give him attention because the doctor has to go back to his primary place of employment. Which is also malpractice.
Yes, it is malpractice. But what if this really is about saving a life? Knowing fully well, I mean, when we started, we talked about the state, the appalling state of the public health centers. And the medical facilities government are provided, if it is sufficient to take care of the medical needs of Nigerians, do you think we're going to have our leaders leave the country to go to seek treatment in other countries of the world? Why wouldn't our president be treated in Abuja? Abuja Medical Center is a place a lot of people go when they have a medical condition. But unfortunately, a lot of people, well, how come the president couldn't just patronize? Because if a doctor actually refer you, or probably itinerary surgery, and it takes the patient and says, see, I am taking you to a private place where they have the gadgets and the equipment, modern equipment to carry out this operation. If I do it there, it's almost 95%, 96% that this surgery is going to be very successful. With the facilities they have in the public sector here, if I carry it out, it's not guaranteed though. So I'm going to tell your family to sign. It's not guaranteed. We're just, and a doctor once told me when my father was here, he said, doctors care, God heals.
Yeah. Which is the truth. That's the slogan of the medical sector.
When you are beginning to introduce a spiritual dimension to your profession, something is wrong. I have a very big question mark.
I agree with you on that. However, at the same time, the doctors are not supposed to guarantee. They're not supposed to ever guarantee outcome of procedures. Because you can do everything.
It is done outside this. I mean, I have watched movie. I have seen people say, "Okay,
I'll give an example. I'll give an example. Now, there's always a misconception when we watch movies and we. I'm on the board of governors of the World Congress of Medical Laws, and we had the conference in Los Angeles recently, and we said medical laws and Hollywood, where Hollywood. Where you know, not Hollywood. So they overhype, expectations of people. You know, so at times they're unreasonable. Now, so doctors shouldn't give guarantees. Yes, going back to what you said with respect to doctors doing it in private practice. Now, the issue is this: as at the time you are a public official who you are bound by code of public service. It is also unethical for you to abandon a patient. So if you have a patient in public service, in public hospital, who needs attention, who needs prompt attention, and you fail to give treatment to such a person, that's malpractice.
Not when there is even a national strike action.
No, now there's what we call force majeure. Now force majeure, you know, Katrina, whatever,
strike actions,
you know, Now strike actions as well shouldn't happen whimsically. As a matter of fact, the law says you must give notice.
And they did. The very last one, they did.
Yes. You know, so as long as they've complied with what the law requires, then, you know, and then they still haven't reached the middle ground, then it's unfortunate. But they've given notice. Now, what I don't like is when they just shut down operations and, you know, or people just...
Without consideration.
Yes, without adequate notice. You need to give notice. Now, what's the notice for? It is for the patient to seek alternative care at that point in time. Now, the problem we have is this. Once there is a conflict, and this conflict is conflict of interest, and is based on monetary issues, then there's a problem. Because if I, as a doctor, will be negligent if I refer you to an incompetent consultant. Because you have relied on my best professional opinion.
Yeah.
And, you know, so now, if I refer you to her because she gives me kickbacks, it's malpractice, because I've made decision on your, not on your own interest, but because of financial interest. Now, if Mr. John there is a better surgeon, but he will not give me any kickbacks, and I decide to send you to her because she will give me kickbacks, because I've made, you know, because I'm going to make some money from it. It's illegal. It's malpractice.
Okay, so how well has doctors fared in their commitment to health, you know, and medical conditions in the country? I mean, based on your exposure.
It's on both sides. How has society treated the doctors? How has the doctors? How has the doctors treated? How has doctors treated their patients? So it's head-headed. My opinion, strictly speaking, is we should people in the health sector are supposed to be in the essential service industry, and we should give them certain perks of offices, tax rebate, different plate number, you know, so that the police won't stop them, you know, things like that. You know, you should have an ID card, doctor, because we know we have a tragedy of paucity of manpower here. 40,000 doctors managing 200 million people. So if I had my way, a doctor should be able to go to the airport and get a discount when he's purchasing the ticket. Those are the things they should. You understand? Certain incentives, but it shouldn't always be money. Now that's why I have a problem with them, because they clamor for, oh, we need to change it, we need to revamp the health sector, we need to buy equipment, and we need allowances. Salaries. So when the government just pays them their salaries or increase in salaries or allowances, then they're okay. Then they go back again. Out of the 10 points they've requested for, one of them in salary, the government too knows they're negotiating. Give them salary, leave the equipment as bad, as moribund as they are. They'll be okay with it, collect salary, and then they will still be in that rut.
And
so
then they will go back to private practice
there's a lot
at the expense of Nigerians.
Yes.
Okay, we'll quickly go on a short break where we'll come back. Lalu will still be here. We're talking about medical negligence, and the dimension after this break will interest you a great deal. Stay with us and join us again. All right, thanks for staying with us, and it's still Crossfire with Dapo and Ishoma. Welcome back. All right, let's quickly take it to the next level. Now, Lalu, let's look at it this way. Government has failed, and everything looks, you know, the information or the vibes that people are getting in Nigeria is that government has been very unfair to doctors in Nigeria. They don't pay their salaries. The hospitals are not, the public hospitals or the government hospitals, the general hospitals are not well funded. The equipment are moribund.
Service delivery
the gadgets are not there. Service delivery is poor. And then you subject a doctor to work 24 hours or 48 hours in some instance. And unfortunately, you still don't pay their salaries, knowing fully well that they are workers, they have a family they're running, they have bills to pay and all of that. It looks like it's government, you know, because I'm going to be very, very strict here.
Yeah.
If you seems to be on the side of government too much, as against the doctors, really and truly. Because for me, I think the government is doing maybe not enough.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying. Maybe doctors here are the one taking advantage of the situation, knowing fully well we are few and we should be appreciated. A doctor wants to be paid like 1.5 million naira every month.
Who wouldn't? Now, it's a compliment to say that I'm supporting.
Trying to,
are you on the part of government or the part of the law?
It's a compliment. I know a lot of people who be surprised that somebody can actually think of
like that.
Yeah, but actually the reality on ground is that government has failed in all sectors, not only in the health sector.
Exactly.
So, you know, we don't have an aviation industry, for example. So, you know, what really is working here? But that doesn't, at the same time, too, we are still a country of laws, and we're still supposed to be bound by these laws. Now, my issue is when you take advantage to the detriment of patients, particularly talking about doctors now. And you talked about doctors working 24 hours. There's what we call physician fatigue.
Now, the doctor works 24 hours because, or even more at times, because he has a roster and is supposed to be off duty. But then off duty, he's supposed to go and rest and refreshing, but off duty is going to private hospital.
Practice.
So it's double-edged, edged. Now, what will eventually happen is this, that, and we know this, if you do something over and monotonously over a considerable period of time without resting, errors will occur.
Yeah.
So a doctor who has
This is where negligence.
Negligence. So this is where
misdiagnosis.
Yeah. So you open up a patient and you've done this surgery in the morning. You're doing another one in the private hospital in the evening. You are tired. Then you forget a tissue paper, or you forget a handkerchief, or you forget a bulb, or a scissors. You've seen different things. Honestly speaking, you'll be amazed at the kind of things we find in patients.
Yeah.
And then you close them up, and you understand. Then because it just now the patients are just statistics. And that's why I have a problem. They're just statistics. Just like an assembly line. There's no empathy.
How many people died today?
Yeah, exactly. There's no empathy. There's no, no accountability. And that's where I have a problem. So I will always advise them, stay within the ambit of the law. But the errors occur. And a lot of the errors that occur is essentially because the Nigerian health worker most Nigerian health workers, I don't generalize, do not develop themselves after initial training, particularly on medical legal issues. So I always have a saying that Nigerian health worker is like a soldier who is blindfolded and thrown inside Syria where there are landmines all over. Because he or she doesn't even know what the law that regulates his industry talk about. So most of the times...
Because if doctors actually have been going to jail, if you have been jailing doctors,
well, I wouldn't
for medical negligence,
I wouldn't get that to that extent. I think what we really need.
I actually wish that I know as much as I do now.
Let me tell you why I don't think we need that to have that mindset. Because people you have not trained. So ask yourself a question: how many doctors in Nigeria today, seeing patients as we speak, have had any trainings on medical laws? How many doctors know the protocols? How many doctors know that certain things should not happen? So look at, a lot of them, the first interface they have with medical law is when they have malpracticed.
No, but if you look at,
So now what we are saying is that at the teaching hospitals now, are they teaching them, are they teaching the nursing, the doctors in training, the nurses in training, the pharmacists in training, anything on law?
But if you look at the code of ethics, which medical doctors and medical practitioners have sworn, it also includes saving lives. And in saving lives, it also means you have to train and retrain yourselves.
Yes.
Many private practices or private practicing firms, many of them do not also engage or retrain their staff. But the doctors on their own, the medical practitioners on their own know that for them to be able to deliver the service better, they need to retrain themselves. Why don't we have this culture also amongst public practitioners?
Thank you. It is foolhardy for you not to invest in training and you claim to run a hospital.
Because as an individual, you need to retrain yourself.
Yes, but aside from that...
So how do you expect a doctor who has trained himself to now come and give you a pro bono service? Haven't trained himself. His parents sent him to school.
Ideally, he's supposed to be paid. His services are supposed to be paid by the government.
By the government, in certain instances. For example, we go to accident patients, for example. The law expects that you treat them. If they bring a gunshot victim, accident victim into your hospital, the law requires that you must treat.
Be it public or private.
But that is not being practiced.
I have been arrested twice for saving accident victims on the expressway.
Yes. Unfortunately,
in fact, the police told me, "Where is the car? Where is the car you used to hit him?" And
where is the police report?
I assisted this guy.
And I need to say this: there is nothing called police report or police permit.
Unfortunately,
it's from the pit of hell. It doesn't. Now the law is simple. The law initially came from the robbery of firearms decree, which requires that, which actually says, treat emergency patients, particularly gunshot victims. But as you are treating them, inform the law enforcement. Because it's only common sense. If you have a gunshot victim, treat. Doctor, treat. But inform the law enforcement so that they can come and get the bullets, they can do forensics and all that.
A friend, Lalu, a friend was shot at an ATM point.
Yes.
Somewhere in Ikorodu.
Yeah.
And friends and families ran to the scene, on calling and all of that, and we all got there. The first hospital we went, the man was insisting. In fact, he called the police on us.
You see,
And he has not even commenced treatment.
When was this?
This was about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, now let me tell you. Now it is illegal for that person to do what he did. The National Health Act has been passed into law. 2014. It actually provides jail time or fine for any doctor or hospital that refuses to treat emergency patients require emergency treatment.
Oh, there's problem in town. Now that I know you, there's problem in town.
It is in the law. I didn't write it. It's in the National Health Act, which says that you must treat. And there is no reason for you to decline a patient. Now, what's an emergency? Emergency is when it's reasonable foreseeable that this patient will lose his life or limb.
No, I think I'm safely saying you've played into my hands, because I recall you made a statement earlier that some of these medical practitioners do not keep themselves abreast with law, what the law says, medical law says. And now you've already started that this is part of the law. Now you have instances in certain hospitals, maybe outside Lagos State, say in one part of Delta State or in one nook and cranny in Abia State, and then an individual is rushed to that hospital. Now because the medical practitioner on ground there has not equipped themselves with the relevant provisions of the law, they will still hinge on the fact that no, you need to provide a police report. And in that instance, or peradventure, that individual may die. Now, what is the enforceability here? Do Nigerians have the power? I mean, of course, I know Nigerians can sue to enforce the law, but how successful is it? How easy is it for Nigerians to sue to enforce the law?
Well, especially when a loved one died, you know, due to negligence.
Even without having to lose someone.
I see this every time. I see this every day. I see patients, relatives of patients who want to enforce their rights in Nigeria. There is an exponential increase in litigation. Yes, and litigation that patients against Nigerian hospitals, because patients are now aware. Trust me, Nigerian patients now, you take your grandfather to the hospital, the doctor is telling you that he's going to need an operation. Somebody there is already on Google checking something up. I'm sure you know. So people have become quite litigious. Now, I'm of the opinion that let them be litigious, but at the same time, to the owners of hospitals, the government should also invest in training their health workers on medical legal issues, because most of the times people sue. 95% of them are non-clinical issues. They're attitudinal.
But for doctors to want to patronize private practice or do more private practice, even though they are fully engaged or supposedly fully engaged by government, don't you think it's because of the benefits they get from private practice? Or maybe fulfillment? Maybe they see their profession well done in an environment, you know, where you have gadgets to be able to carry out a minor or major operation and all of that.
The allegation is that it's for financial considerations. Now, personally, I think what should happen...
Don't they have a right to finance?
With the way the law is, and anybody that loves medical practice in Nigeria today should start lobbying for that law to be amended to allow them. But as it is now, it is illegal. I'm speaking, not my opinion, what the law says. So if anybody has any interest of Nigerian health industry, health sector, now they should start lobbying their senators to amend the constitution to allow, even if it's only for...
What is the process of suing? I want to litigate. What is the process of suing? I have
legal action.
A classical example of someone dying because of negligence. And I want to go to court and I just want to sue. What do I do?
Well, first of all is get a lawyer.
Okay. But I need to get a lawyer.
Yes, get a lawyer.
I need to get a lawyer who practices medical law. Most probably.
Not necessarily medical law.
I think the person must be involved.
Lawyer.
The doctor is the defendant. Is saying that I did my best. I am saying, no, you could do better. And he's telling me, you can't teach me my profession. That was what he told me in my father's case. You can't teach me my profession. We've done this, we did this way. And I'm like, no. I mean, you should have told us this and this and this, but you didn't tell us that. And he's telling me, okay, you are telling me you know my job more than me. So it's my, how do I if I engage a lawyer who does not know medicine, so how do you help fight my case and I get justice?
Well, not all lawyers can.
Not all.
Can specialize, but at the same
Yeah.
time, there's what we call expert witnesses. So it's usually the measurement is what is the reasonable man's test. What would the reasonable person have done? For instance, what would the reasonable doctor have done in treating your father? You know. But the problem, really speaking, is that even that doctor too. Probably, let me tell you the truth. Most of the times, patients or relatives of patients like you complain. It's usually the interface you've had with them. Yeah. Not really the procedure, but the attitude, the rudeness of the nurse. You understand? That bottles up. Now, eventually, if a negative outcome happens, now all those things you've picked up, all those nauseating behaviors, all those attitudinal, insulting things that you have stomached will now fuel.
Is it until somebody dies or the situation is consequential on the patient this time that I can sue? What if a nurse, I mean, is very attitudinal
or maybe
and it just didn't talk well or behave well? Maybe it's just something.
Even now, that's why
like a delay in carrying out, your vitals.
There are laws. There are laws. Failure to see a patient as promptly as the patient requires is malpractice. Failure to educate the patient properly is malpractice.
Is it malpractice?
Poor communication with patients or relatives of patients.
I don't want to miss this.
Yes.
If you bring a victim, there's an accident, for instance, or there's an appunstance, and this person needs to get to the hospital, and the nearest hospital is what comes to mind.
Naturally.
And then you get in there and they tell you you cannot see a doctor until you get a card. You pay for
Is it an emergency?
Yes.
Then that's malpractice.
It is malpractice.
It's actually a crime.
Oh my world.
Because the first thing they should do is to save life.
Yes, it's actually a crime. So you should never. What the law says.
Something happened a few days to the producer of this show. Look, and this is a classical example. We will not start treatment until you pay.
No, it is a crime.
Oh my!
I say it emphatically, and I would like to be quoted on it. If an
emergency
patient coming into your hospital requires you must treat. Now, treatment varies. I give an example. A dentist is a doctor.
Yes.
Now, you bring a gunshot victim to my dental clinic. What can I do? So I'm protected by law too as a professional. Sure. If I do not have the facilities, if I do not have the expertise, if I do not have equipment, if I'm not well enough, you understand? What the law expects me to do is stabilize and refer.
Yes.
Stabilizing could mean give heart drip, painkiller, put bandage, and refer to what we call a multidisciplinary center, like LUTH, Federal Medical Center, UCH. But refusal to even touch the patient is malpractice and it's illegal.
Because they reject victims in hospitals. Patients, they reject them. Say, this one, we cannot contain it.
I tell you practically that it is illegal. You must. Now, even if you can't dance, at least shake your body. You must do something. Even if it's just to give normal saline, it's just to give painkiller. Then say,
I beg to say here that a cousin of mine had a gunshot injuries a while back while he was in the university, and this was the exact thing the doctor did. What they did was they saw that there was no way they could because of the position of the bullet, and what did they do? They had to administer him, put him on drip, sufficient to take him to the nearest specialist hospital.
That's what they should do.
But let's also consider
But the bulk of the hospitals in Nigeria don't do that. You are aware that this is not done.
I'm aware, and that's why I'm doing public enlightenment like this, that you should know.
And that's why cases on negligence
like I said, if you know that you don't have the facilities, you don't have the expertise, you don't have, maybe the doctor you have on call is one greenhorn that just come out of medical. He can't, and somebody has a bullet lodged in his skull. He can't open up, he can't do it. Just stabilize and refer. But the stabilization means do something, even if it's just water, drip, whatever, plaster,
something to sustain,
first aid.
That can save that life.
Just to elongate that person's chances of survival.
Nigerians we are not informed.
I think that's the issue.
This is coming really pretty late.
It's not too late.
I mean, because I know a lot of people who have suffered.
Yeah.
It simply means doctors have killed more people.
The most important, well...
Ignorance.
Yes,
ignorance.
that's what I'm saying.
For example, I give another simple one that happens every day in Nigeria, is, and that was what even led me to medical law, is okay, you have an operation tomorrow, you know, and they don't tell you benefits of such surgeries, alternatives, life-changing circumstances of such operations.
Yes, maybe it could lead to amputation and they didn't tell you that.
Now, so what they do is, okay, take this form, come and sign consent form. So you sign the form and you go, and they wheel your old man to the theater.
What is a typical consent form?
Now, a consent form, I'll get there, but let me land on this. So you sign the consent form, then take your patient to the theater, bring him back, then they tell you, okay, that what this means is this.
Yes.
Now, what then start telling you that, okay, these are the side effects, so you might not have any erection anymore, or you might, you know. So first of all, what we've also failed to do here is the doctrine of informed consent. Okay. Informed consent is when I sit you down as a doctor, I tell you, this is the side effect of this surgery you're going to have. These are the alternatives, should the case you don't want it. These are the life-altering circumstances of it. Yeah. So that the patient can do what? Make an informed decision.
And then you attest to it.
Because the patient has a right to say, no, I don't want it. A patient has a right to refuse any operation, even if that thing will lead to his or her death.
True. Now, an instance is when women finally get into, you know, maybe a few hours into delivery. And then you get them into the hospital. And then you meet with a doctor, and the doctor is telling you, you know what? She can't deliver this baby on her own. We have to open her up. She needs to go through, you know, a cesarean session. And then
that's
they look for
somebody. In practice.
And then they look for somebody. They will tell you, we cannot start until we get somebody to sign, you know, a letter of consent. Now, what are you signing for, really?
No, don't get it mixed. Okay. A consent form is that you have accepted that this surgery can go on. Now, the expectation is that now it also means that should in case they find any other thing there that you consent that whatever is in your interest they should do. Okay. So at times they open up patients at times and they find certain other ailments there. So it would be unreasonable for them to take you out of the theater and say, Madam, we saw a tumor, can we remove it? So they will remove whatever they see that they think ought to be removed. Okay. However, if it's an emergency situation, and I say this again, I'd like to say this, and there is nobody to give consent. Let's say the woman is unconscious and they need to yank off this baby from her, and her husband is in traffic. The law allows the doctor to remove it. Okay. Without the consent of the husband, if it's in the interest of the person.
Of the person.
Yes. So when it's an emergency situation, and say emergency, when there's reasonable expectation of loss of life or limb, consent is thrown aside.
So an accident victim rushed from the point of accident, and on getting to the hospital, they discovered that removing
the leg,
you know, the leg will save his life.
And he's unconscious.
And what if he's conscious?
What if he's conscious? Now, if he's conscious and he's
saying, don't cut my leg, don't cut my leg,
and he's lucid enough, yes, you stand against medical advice.
You should sign.
The law allows you that you can refuse medical treatment, even if that refusal will lead to your death.
And it could be verbal.
In that situation, it ought to be written. Now, in such situations, most people have what we call living wills or advanced directives. So that, okay, I don't take blood, I don't take blood expanders, so they usually have them on them. So ideally what will happen, the protocol is that you should actually search the patient first. Does he have anything on him that says that I do not want amputation in case of emergency, or I do not take blood, I belong to a religious sect that doesn't take blood like Jehovah's Witness? So they usually have some tags on them that will speak for them. But there's nothing there visible and is unconscious, and the doctor feels that the best thing to do for this patient is to amputate or whatever. The law allows him to do such.
Wow, awesome, awesome. Anyway, I mean, I don't want to advertise your profession, but anybody who probably feel that you have lost someone very dear to you, and you are sure that it's actually medical negligence. You actually, I mean, why we lose our loved ones? Who wants to go to court again?
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.